Hey everybody, what is up? It's your good friends Corey Camp and Brian McGill back at you with another Sibme What's Up Wednesday. Corey, how you doing over there?
Hi, Brian. I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. We've got the sun is shining in Pittsburgh, but we're it's still a little chilly out. I'm looking forward to heating things up a little bit. Spring. We're supposed Puxtony Phil told us that we're going to get an early spring, so the boat is out of the mine. We're getting ready. We're getting ready for some social distance fishing and such. How about y'all?
Yeah, we are in full swing, of course. We got the chicks ready to go. As sunny as it looks behind me, it is cold right now. It got down in the 20s last night, and it will again tomorrow, but then we're looking at warmer weather after that. So I don't have a boat, but we have definitely cleaned off all the patio furniture and are just waiting for an opportunity to sit outside and have a picnic and do dinners outside and all of that fun stuff. So that's what we've been up to. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you. We definitely have been busy here at Sibme working on a lot of really awesome things. I pre-recorded yesterday with our coach for our Friday show, the Coach Replay show, talking about supporting exceptional learners. And today we've got an awesome guest. Today we've got a great webinar. Do you want to talk a little bit about our webinar today?
Yeah, the big guys coming on the show. Mr. Dave Wakefield, our CEO and founder, Observation 2.0 with David Wakefield. This is a really exciting webinar. He's going to talk a little bit about his. I hope he talks a little bit about the inception of Sibme, but how this kind of his vision for the company blended with how Observations will improve to make better teaching and learning. He's always a very insightful guy, as of course, Corey. So I think we have over 200 people signed up for today's webinar. So we're expecting some great attendance and some rich conversation. I guess his discussion will be moderated by our good friend TJ Hoffman. So come on out for Observation 2.0 with David Wakefield.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. A lot of people registered for that one. And so I'm looking forward to the conversation that we'll have as well. But, Dave doesn't come out for the webinars very often, and I wish he would, because I always love hearing his thoughts and his ideas and some of his experiences around this. So this will be a good one. Yeah.
So what you got cooking over there, Corey?
I have started working on our next course. Of course, we have the PLCs and video course is available now, but we're going to be working on this blended professional development, which is something that I am really hoping will be one of the silver linings to our current circumstances. I think the coronavirus and the school closures as a result of this pandemic have really forced the tipping point when it comes to technology adoption and integration. It's also highlighted some areas where we have some inadequacies across our programs and districts and universities. But I think we're going to see a lot more virtual integrations and meaningful technology integrations, including more virtual and video enhanced coaching and blended professional development. So I'm really excited. We've had this content written for a while. We just haven't put it in video course form. So that's what I'm working on today. I'll be kind of blocking myself into the room to work on that script and all of those activities. So working away.
If your use case is professional learning communities, go to learn.sibme.com. Check this out. We obviously are always looking for feedback, and if you want to share this out with other PLC programs that are in your area, this is a great free resource, right? To engage some of your colleagues in your region. Good work, Corey. Thanks for creating that.
Yeah, thanks to our virtual coaches who help us write that content as well, who have some expertise in that area. So All right. So are you ready for today's guest? I'm super excited. I'm going to let you introduce her today.
This What's Up Wednesday interview is much anticipated. She is, her name is Dr. Sara Kajder with the University of Georgia. She is a fellow Pittsburgher, and she has been an incredible adopter of the Sibme platform this year. Everybody give it up for Dr. Sara Kajder.
Hey, everybody. It's like that every time I walk into a room, right, Brian?
That's
Welcome,
right.
welcome to the party. Exactly. Sara, I really appreciate you coming on today's show. You've been with Sibme for, I guess, about a year now, and I'm really proud to work with you as a fellow Pittsburgher, but also my interest in helping Southern programs and your work. Talk to us a little bit about how you got started with Sibme.
So Sibme came into my world as I was facing a pretty significant teaching conundrum. So I run programs here at the University of Georgia that work with all different levels of pre-service teachers, practicing teachers, doctoral students, the whole range. And we had just built an induction year program. An induction year is the first year of teaching. So as soon as our graduates were finished with their student teaching and hired in a new position, they were walking into schools. Some schools have really robust and wonderful mentoring programs. But what we know in teacher education is that we've got about a 3-year window in which our recent graduates are experiencing and figuring out what happens in schools and deciding whether they wanted to stay. My goal in building an induction year program was to ease the transition of what that first year would be, to provide mentoring and coaching, and to be sustaining some communities of practice that we worked really hard during their undergrad programs to build. So I was looking for a solution to the problem that I had 40 students who were graduating and starting this new program, but going all across the country. So I knew that we needed to be online. I knew that we needed to be video based. And I knew that we needed to use video in different kinds of ways to lead teachers to see and re-see their teaching, right? So if I'm not assigning you as a part of a course the task of recording yourself teaching like we do in undergrad, and then thinking about that teaching and then writing about that teaching, how can we make sure that that's happening during induction year? So Sibme became the solution for us to think about ways that we could gather and bring together students, to think about ways that we could be breaking down classroom wall boundaries. So our students in all of these different states and all of these different classrooms, whether they were in middle schools or in high schools, were all able to, on the very first days, share, here's the bulletin boards that I'm setting up, here's the classroom setup. We were giving tours of what our spaces looked like in community spaces. But then more importantly, they were getting together and sharing ideas about, here's what happens when I first met kids. What do I do with that? Because different states were on different timelines. And then they started lesson sharing. How are you working with your reading curriculum? How are you working with your writing curriculum? So what we found was that in our courses, we were using huddles to give assignments and to just kind of test things out. I start really small with things. I always want to make sure that when I'm using a technology to solve what I see as an instructional challenge or problem, that we start really small to make sure that it's the right fit, but that the problem is really an instructional problem and not a technology problem, if that makes sense. So we knew that we had pedagogical problems in there that we were trying to fiddle with, but we started small with these folks. And very quickly, they started asking if they could be creating huddles to do other things. So can I please create huddles that aren't for this class, but that are going to be for the 5 or 6 other things that I could be using this for? We found students who were meeting with one another in small groups through huddles. We found students who were reimagining what we could be doing inside of huddle spaces and giving real-time feedback to one another. We even created a system where we had a phone a friend. So if you taught a lesson during first period and it went really poorly, which happens for novice teachers in more times than I can count, there were mechanisms, and you knew that you could text a friend and say, hey, I just shared up in Sibme and I shared video from first period, and I marked it with 3 different areas where I know things started to wobble. Can you give me some feedback? They had real-time feedback from their peers and from faculty, and we were able to use that so that when they taught that that same lesson in 3rd period, they had feedback and growth already in place, which was really fun to start to see that develop. And so what started as this little goal of how could I use a tool to connect us so we could see one another's classrooms, so we could look at some of our teaching, and so we could engage in really thoughtful practice embedded teacher learning, grew into a much larger ecosystem that was supporting those induction year students all the way through what the year brought them, because they had a little entrance and then a really high ceiling for how they could manipulate and change and play and do the things in the huddle spaces that they needed to do. That was a long answer to a short question.
It's a great story.
Focusing there. We started focusing there on those induction year kiddos. And then, because nothing ever stays in that one little space, once you have success in one space, it bleeds quickly into other spaces. We quickly moved into using Sibme to support our pre-service teachers who were in their early practicum experiences. So the very first days that they've ever stepped into classrooms as teachers. And then also in supporting our student teachers in the field and who are actively being mentored across a full year.
Oh, looks like we lost her for a moment there. We'll wait for her to rejoin. So many great things, though.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Corey.
Well, I was just going to say, and I'll second this again when Sara rejoins us. That is, I think, the thing that we all really, really want, right? So a lot of times when I'm working with customers who are using our platform or have tried some of these things on their own in the past, they get a little disheartened in the beginning, because that's kind of the vision we all have, is like, we're going to start small with this bit of technology, and we've got kind of a vision for how this can be a solution to a problem, but we really want everybody to take it and run with it. And so that is the ultimate measure of success. And it looks different for everyone. It's absolutely appropriate in your first, 3 years, 5 years, even, for this to still be a process where it's taking some time to take hold and really set as a foundation for an ecosystem, like she said, of educators at all levels, at all places, really connecting and using this to drive their work. And so I think this is a really great story of how that's happening, and how exciting that this is happening for first year teachers and pre-service teachers. Like, I think that is just really setting our new educators up. Those who are coming out of the University of Georgia are coming with an advantage of being able to collaborate. When I used to train, I was a special educator, and I did a lot of training on co-teaching, and most of the time that co-teaching started with, how do you collaborate with another professional, because you hadn't done it in a while. So this is just really, really exciting. And I know that Sara will rejoin us here in a moment. Did you have any other thoughts on that, Brian?
I mean, it was just very interesting that there was some organic growth there, because I don't think that her initiative was technology related at all. It was really a lot of pedagogy and I would just say a plan of support, where I think that these to hear a story where a teacher can essentially have a reflection from a first period class, be able to regroup, and then readdress what they wanted to do in their first period in the third. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd ever be able to do that if folks were supported on site. Just too chaotic, right? So,
well, and if you didn't have that, that camera has to be rolling for that to happen, right? And so what I also hear is not only from the bottom up kind of desire to connect and collaborate and maximize the use of the technology. And that technology is not just the video piece of this, but it's also the online space for collaboration and for sharing and for communication. And we see that a lot where video has really transformed the way people are doing things, whether that's on site or more geographically dispersed, is that it becomes one of these things where, and this is how I did in my classroom. Eventually, I just recorded almost every day. I was recording. I didn't always go back and watch it, but I was recording just in case there was something I wanted to go back and look at or I wanted to share with someone. So that definitely is really helpful. Allison Burnett, one of our Sibme, our own Sibme individuals, our director of virtual learning, just watching on Facebook and said that's definitely an important advantage. So yeah, definitely. Brian, I'm gonna see if you can get a hold of Sara, see if she's able. She might have had an outage, which happened to me the other day. So if you'll give her a shout, and I'll just share a shout out. I'll jump to the shout outs while we're seeing if Sara can rejoin us. If not, folks, we'll have Sara come back again for a part 2 to continue sharing. Before the show, she was talking about, she was collecting her thoughts around some of the topics that we wanted to talk about today. She said she was putting off doing some grading and realized after she was looking through all of her notes that she's like, man, I could almost write like a book on this, a paper on this. And so she definitely has a lot of really, really great ideas and some really great experiences for how this is going. So while we're waiting to see if Sara can join us again, I just want to do our shout out for today, which is another university. We are giving a shout out to Marshall University, which is in West Virginia. Let me pull up their info here. So Tina Allen, who's the head, our main point of contact for Marshall University in West Virginia, we met with them. Jenny Sulfridge, our customer success manager, met with them yesterday, and they are doing some really amazing things there in their program, much like Sara and her team at the University of Georgia. They are looking at ways that video and Sibme can not only connect geographically dispersed, which is important, especially right now, but also ways that this can completely transform that experience for their pre-service and new teachers. So super exciting work coming out of Marshall University. I think they're going to be doing some sessions around this in some related conferences as the year moves forward and conferences get back up and running. And so I'm sure we'll have Tina Allen on a What's Up Wednesday show soon. All right, Brian, let me know if you are back yet and if we have an idea of if Sara can join us. We've got a few people viewing us live, and so thanks for continuing to hang on with us as we work through some technical difficulties. I'd love to invite you all into, Sara's trying to reconnect right now, so I'd love to invite you to leave a comment for us on Facebook, or if you're watching on Periscope or in YouTube. Let us know if you've got a question for Sara and her team to kind of answer when she's able to come back. So she should be joining us here again in a moment. Let us know if you've got any questions about maybe how what she contributed to this type of success. What are her next steps? We're definitely going to be talking about how she's managed and how the things she's been doing this year with video and with the use of Sibme have supported her as we have been facing school closures. That's one of our questions coming back. But if you've got another question, definitely leave that there in the chat for us. And Brian, if you'll join me back on screen, I don't know really what to do, you guys, as we're waiting. So, not sure if I had a good singing voice, I'd sing for everybody right now. Let us know what questions you have. Let us know where you're coming in from. There you are, Brian.
So we're experiencing some technical difficulties, and we're going to do a separate recorded interview with Dr. Kajder, and we'll post this to the Sibme Facebook page here later today. But we won't be able to include it in this particular What's Up Wednesday episode.
Yeah.
There we go. So
Sounds good.
thanks
Okay.
for joining us, and stay tuned on our Facebook page for Dr. Kajder's interview. Talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
See you out there.